Well, it's Friday, as you know what that means. As you know, AEW continues with more on Rampage with Grand Slam, but this time is a 2 hour episode. We have the Ring of Honor six-man tag team titles and a few other things taking place, but also very interesting surprises that took place as well during Rampage. But also, we have NXT. Who's going to level up this time? We're going to find out soon enough. But first things first, we're going to review one of the much recent shows by Stardom, continuing with more of the 5-star Grand Prix. As you know, we're getting closer and closer to the conclusion. So I'm excited to see how far we're going to go. As you know, I reported on a news update on the current situations, how this is going to play out. Well, we'll see how this one kind of already explained it in some ways, but we'll get to that as soon as possible. But also we have some news updates to tell what's been going on in the world of pro wrestling, such as what promotions, what events of promotions are throwing out, who's booked, what matches are set, also any injured wrestlers, any wrestlers have been signed or departing from any promotion, or the whole enchilada. So let's get ready for another episode of the Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Welcome everybody to the Deleted Wrestle Zone, all things that is pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Impact Wrestling, the National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, JIro here. So, if you are new to the channel, welcome. This is, of course, a channel where we throw in a lot of pro wrestling events. If you like what you see, guys, we throw in not only shows here in the US, but also in Japan, Mexico, Canada, Europe, the UK, anywhere where pro wrestling is, where even if it's a country where pro wrestling is not that big, but it's growing. So if you like this channel, please subscribe to us. We'll be doing daily reviews a lot, and also some news updates. But not only we just do those, we also do, of course, some discussion videos. We even do, of course, some news updates alert. If there's any situation that's been alerted to us, we report that to you immediately. And also we have the Unagi Sayaka watch, if you guys are fans of her, but that's another story for another time. So let's get started with our very first review, and this is from Stardom's 5-star Grand Prix back on the 18th of September. In this one, they were in Yamaguchi. Now we're going to start with the 5-star Grand Prix matches. The first one we have is tag team action. We have Oedo Tai consisting of Ruka and Starlight Kid taking on Club Venus's Waka Tsukiyama and Mariah May. Now, this is a very interesting match, of course, because I can tell people are observing Club Venus, who are growing popularity, but not to mention also the world keeping their eye on Mariah May. So it was Mariah May who picked up the win onto Ruka with the Once Upon a Time, giving her and Waka the W. Now, our next match, we have the members of Stars, consistent of Hana and Koguma, taking on God's Eyes, Saki Kashima, and Mirai. Now, I know generally in this type of match, when you think of God's Eye, because they are the most strongest unit. However, the one thing it was very interesting is, of course, a bit of the tricksting games with Saki Kashima, how she plays out her moments. That did not work. But however, the most interesting development, that the fact when this match was over, it was Koguma who pinned Saki Kashima. So basically, that is an interesting development. Now keep in mind, on October 9th, Saki Kashima has a match against Mei Seira. But however, Koguma did beat her. She could cash in the opportunity for another shot of the high-speed title. Now, Kashima has defeated her before, But we'll see how that plays, because the old saying goes, lightning doesn't strike twice. But we'll see about that. Next up, we have Hanako and Saya Ida taking on Megan Bayne and Maika. Now, all these 4 women, they have strength, but there are X factors into this match. Now, Megan Bayne's a bit more taller than Saya Ida. Then, of course, there's Hanako right next to Megan, and then Maika, then Saya Ida, which is kind of weird. You would have assumed that would have been a very interesting development, but of course, Megan Bayne, who is not afraid of anything, of course, took out her opponents. But however, the win did not go directly to her. It went straight up to Maika when she applied the Michinoku driver on Saya Ida. 1, 2, 3. It was over from there. Now, our next match we have, of course, is tag team action. We have Mei Seita and Suzuki, who many fans, like myself, believe that they are a very interesting team, and of course, very unique team, if you might add. They take on Yuna Mizumori and Tam Nakano. Now, keep in mind, I'm sure Tam Nakano hasn't forgotten that Suzuki has pinned her during the 5-star Grand Prix. She does have an opportunity to cash in that opportunity. My prediction for that will be right after Nagoya on October 9th. But however, the match, of course, I knew this was going to fall into the favor of Suzuki and Seita, due to the fact that Yuna has always been the one who's been getting the pinfalls. So basically, it was Zuzu with the tequila shot. 1, 2, 3. It was over. Now, our next match, we have another tag team match. We have Queen's Quest, consisting of Azumi and Utami Ayashida. They take on stars Azuki and Koguma. Now, this is a very interesting development between these 2 teams. Utami Ayashida and Mayu Iwatani are both leaders of their groups, but however, their tag partners are their second in command. So basically, that's a very good development. But however, of course, there's the situation between both Utami and Mayu. Now, Utami will never let that go, the fact that she did defeat Mayu for the Red Belt not too long ago. And she was almost on the verge of taking the IWGP Women's Championship from her, but it was unsuccessful. I mean, the match was was amazing, but however, the time limit draw was done. So basically, it was a draw. It ended up with 15 minutes of time limit. So until next time, if it's ever happened. Now, our last 2 matches are part of the 5-star Grand Prix. The first is part of the Red Stars. We have Ami Suri versus Natsupoi. Now, many people presume that this is one of Natsupoi's strongest moments in the 5-star Grand Prix. She has picked up several good matches. However, recently she has suffered a couple losses. One with Natsuko Tora, and I forgot who else she lost. But Ami Suri is a very capable wrestler, but unfortunately, Ami Suri was eliminated out of the tournament regardless of her point status. But she was able to pick up a win when she applied the like a thunderbolt, giving her next 2 points, leaving with 6 points, as for Natsupoi with 9. However, it was later announced that Natsupoi, because of this loss, she's officially eliminated out of the tournament. So she was a little frustrated that this had to come to an end like this. But she's hoping that Tam somehow makes it all the way to the finals. So we'll see about that. Now let's jump into the Blue Stars block. We have Mina Shirakawa versus Momo Watanabe. Now, I'm sure this is a very familiarized match for all of you. Let me explain this one a little bit. When Mina Shirakawa pursued it for the white belt last year, there was several wrestlers that she knew she would be facing, wrestlers who have become the white belt champions. Among them was Momo Watanabe. But of course, last year during the day 1 of the 5-star Grand Prix, Momo attacked Mina Shirakawa from behind. And you think she did the same thing again? Well, hell yes, she tried to do it again. And everything she did, I mean, Momo tried to beat her up, tried to take her out. But at some point of the match, Mina was bleeding from the head. So she had to continue fighting with a lot of the adrenaline. No matter what Momo did, it did not put Mina down. Mina is so driven to make it all the way to the finals, to hopefully to be the one to dethrone Tam of the red belt. Now keep in mind, there's others that we do believe are capable of defeating Tam for the red belt in the future, but we'll see about that. But it was Mina with a glamorous collection Mina that put Momo away. So we'll see what happens. So Mina is most likely now. Of course, this for the upcoming weekend, we know that Mina will face Micah. It's a lose-lose situation for both in some capacity. So if Mina loses, she's out. Same thing with Micah, but Micah's situation could change. But I already reported that recently. So we'll see what happens further on in the 5-star Grand Prix. So right now, let's move on with AEW Rampage. Okay, AEW Rampage as we continue with Grand Slam and Arthur Ashe. It's opened up with Christian Cage and, of course, the current TNT champion Luchasaurus, even though Christian Cage is wearing the belt, declaring himself as the champion. But they face this off against Sting and Darby Allin. Now, this match was more of like, how do I say, Christian Cage is trying to right a wrong after what happened in Wembley Stadium. But, of course, Nick Wayne was present in the match. Now, you probably would have assumed that Christian Cage would have done everything in his power to prove a point about Darby Allin, about the way he is, the way he acts, what kind of false person he is, and a false mentor he can play out for Nick Wayne. However, Nick Wayne, as you know, got in his face by distracting him and, of course, costing the match. So basically, Darby and Sting walked away with the win. But how will Christian take this? Because, as you know, in Collision, Christian Cage put himself in a match for the TNT title with Luchasaurus and Darby Allin in a three-way match with Sting barred. But will Nick Wayne show up and help? Well, we'll see what happens when we get there. Now, our next match, we have a trios mixed tag team match. Team number 1, we have Chris Statlander, Orange Cassidy, and Hook. Now, this was a match that later was set, of course, when Hook and Orange Cassidy, somehow Orange Cassidy and Hook decided, to team up. I've always say I was interested with odd characters that are like the, unique characters that, you look at Orange Cassidy, he just is quiet too much, he doesn't say anything, but he plays it out smooth. Hook, we know he's going to win because he's not intimidated, he has no fear. And of course, Chris Allen, who is our formerly Alien, now our current TBS champion. Sorry about that. Got a visitor. So anyway, they face off against former members of the Jericho Appreciation Society, Matt Menard, Angelo Parker, and Anna Jay, but Jake Hager is, of course, in tow. Now, the X factor of that, knowing Jake Hager was going to interfere. Not to mention, you probably would have assumed that would have been played out their favor. However, it was, of course, a great combinations from everybody to help out. But it was Orange Cassidy who failed out the final blow when he orange punched Angelo Parker. 1, 2, 3. Now, I would like to see how this between Orange Cassidy and Hook, their friendship, or however they want to call themselves, progresses. So we'll see about that in the future. Now, as you know, we've been seeing a lot of things going on with the QTV crew. As you know, QT is still traveling the world trying to prove that he's the best wrestler because he's the AAA Latin American champion. So we'll see where that takes us from there. So we do see an interview in the ring with Tony Schiavone. Now, we did see something that we did not expect this past Wednesday on Dynamite. After the match between Jericho and Sammy Guevara low blowed Chris Jericho, and it seems like the indication did tell that he will be joining the Don Callis family. Now, we weren't too sure yet until it was finally confirmed that yes, Don Callis has integrated, of course, Sammy Guevara as part of the family. You see, as you know, Don Callis, who had his issues towards Kenny, saying that he betrayed, now Jericho, who refuses to accept the years of friendship that they have, now he took something that belonged to him, which is, of course, his friend and someone that Jericho looked out for, Sammy Guevara. However, Sammy felt since during the time of Jericho that he was the one who's holding back. But all of a sudden, Jericho shows up, tried to take matter of his own hands, but the numbers was just too much. But out of nowhere, Kenny Omega shows up, who was not going to allow Don Callis to use the screw wrench onto Chris Jericho again. But as soon as it was all over, Alex Marvez decided to get the scoop to find out what's going on. So he presumed that Jericho and Omega were going to become friends, but that wasn't the case. So they both had an agreement showing that, yes, we do have a problem with Don Callis. He's a problem that needs to be plucked out. So they felt that in Wrestling Dream, let's take this matters to them. So it's going to be Jericho and Omega along, and also Ibushi at Wrestle Dream to take on, of course, Sammy Guevara and Takeshita and a third partner of their choosing. Now, who do I think is going to be? I wouldn't be surprised if it's going to be Daniel Garcia, because we know that Don Callis has an interest in him, but we'll see when we get there. Now, our next match is a number one contendership in a four-way for the ROH World Tag Team titles. We have the Hardys, the Best Friends, the Righteous, and of course the Kingdom. Now, 3 out of 4 wrestlers teams the Hardys and the Kingdom have been ROH Tag Team Champions, but I don't think the Righteous have. They were in fact 6-man tag champions with another person. But however, the Best Friends has never held those titles. So it became a chaotic moment. Like, you wouldn't expect how this is going to play out once we get there. But unfortunately, when Jeff Hardy had Chuck Taylor right where he wanted with the Swanton, Vincent pulled him out, but it did allow for, of course, moments before the Swanton was applied, Vincent tagged himself in using Jeff Hardy, and then, of course, what happened? He does his own Swanton and pick up the win on Chuck Taylor, now making himself and Dutch Butch as the number one contenders for the ROH World Tag Team Championship. So that is something, they've been very cryptic about that recently. But however, there's the sore losers of the Kingdom who could not take the loss completely, so they went out on a temper tantrum on the Best Friends, like they cannot believe that they were screwed out of these tag titles, even though they thought they had everything under control, but they did not. Or the temper tantrum was what happened with Roderick Strong this past Wednesday. Who knows? But we'll see how this one progresses with them as well. But how will Adam Cole and MJF respond to the Righteousness, coming after them? We'll see about that soon enough. Now, the AEW World Trios titles are on the line. We have the Dark Order versus the Champs, the Acclaim, and Daddy Ass. Now, you probably would have assumed that the way the Dark Order has evolved into a much vicious and deadly team would have played out in that fashion. However, it kind of did, but it did not took any effect. Basically they tried everything in their power to ensure those titles go straight to Dark Order, but in the end it was, of course, a pinfall made by Anthony Bowens to Reynolds to pick up the win. So they won. Cesar made that. So yes, so they retained their title. So we'll see who will be the next challengers. Now, our next match, we have Sky Blue versus Julia Hart. Now, these two ladies are one of the most capable wrestlers in AEW. But, of course, Julia Hart applied the Heartless onto Sky Blue, picking up the win. But, however, she decided for no apparent reason to apply the Heartless again when the bell rung, knowing that it was over. But Willow Nightingale showed up and gave Sky Blue the help she needs. But the obvious thing came in from the commentators. She did this to draw her out. She's been scouting the top wrestlers in order to make a name for herself. So we'll see about that in due time. Now, as you know, Jay White will be facing Andrade this coming weekend on the Collision on Saturday. Apparently they decided a little mockery on Spanish. So basically we'll see how this is going to go between Andrade and Jay White. Now, our next match, we have Santana versus Bronson from the Iron Savages. Now, Santana has stepped on his own, saying he's no longer part of the tag team. Basically, there was a falling out between him and Ortiz. But you can guess that this match was over when Santana picked up a nice, amazing win against Bronson. giving him the edge that he needs. But however, Ortiz was waiting right on the stage area of the stadium, but he wasn't willing to talk to Ortiz. So we don't know what their friendship is going to be like now that Santana is on his own. Now our main event is the ROH World Six-Man Tag Team Championships, the Elite. Hangman Adam Page and the Young Bucks taking on the Mogul Embassy, Brian Cage, Bishop Khan, and Teo Leona. Now, as you know, Hangman has now a bit of a feud with Swerve Strickland. Now he faces his Mogul Embassy in this matter. However, you probably would have assumed that this match would have fallen to the Mogul Embassy, but however, some point in the match we did see Swerve Strickland try to get in the head of Hangman Page. But did it work? Nope. But it was, of course, a rolling star type maneuver by Hangman to Brian Cage to pick up the win and become brand new ROH World Six-Man Tag Team Champions. So that means the Bucks and Hangman are now two-time ROH World Six-Man Tag Team Champions. They had held those battles before, but however, the obvious question does tell: how will this affect now Swerve Strickland? Is he now should be considering worried that this thing between him and Hangman is going to be a big of a problem? Now, Swerve Strickland's issues, he felt that Hangman has received a lot of opportunities, but not him. So that became a story of about jealousy, who gets the opportunities. But that's how it's been played out. We'll see about that when we get to Wrestle Dream, but don't forget, we do have the contract signing between those two guys. So I think that's pretty much it with AEW Rampage Grand Slam. Let's move on to our last and final review, NXT Level Up. Okay, so who's going to level up on this latest episode of NXT Level Up? Let's find out. Our first match, we have Ivy now taking on Izzy Dame. Now, we know that Ivy now, we all say that she should be making her way to the top for the NXT Women's Championship. That is something we definitely could see. But having her with Izzy Dame kind of will put her on getting her feet wet in order to give us the attention we need for her to get there. But I knew that this match was going to fall in favor to Ivy when she applied, of course, the Dragon Sleeper, and it was over right from there. The moment Izzy Dame realized there was no escape, she had to tap out. Now, before our next match, one of the participants of this match, Luca Crucifino, who is a so-called lawyer, thinks that, Ikemen JIro is violating the law by using his jacket. What law? So he thinks that, he's going to teach Ikemen JIro because he believes that he's using the jacket as a weapon. So basically, that's what was happening. So when the match was happening, of course, Luca was going to claim that there's a weapon in the jacket. But however, at some point of the match, Luca was able to take off them and try to use it against them. But the final moments when Ikemen JIro had Luca right where he wanted him, he tossed the jacket right in his face and picked up the win, just like that. And of course, the fans were not happy how this match ended up. So, just like that. Now, our main event, this is the last match of the Global Heritage Invitational Group B. We have Axiom versus Charlie Dempsey. Now, keep in mind, Dempsey and Charlie are Axiom and Dempsey are the two of the lowest members of their group. So this will determine how the stats will be. So I have to say Axiom had to dig more deeper, because you know that Dempsey will put him in a submission and it will be a lot painful than you realize. But it was Axiom with the golden ratio that allowed him to win the match, and he ends with his Global Heritage Invitational with 3 points, with one draw and a one win with 3 points. And Dempsey, well, he ended up with 0. So that's how it rolls up from there. So I think that's pretty much it, what we have for NXT Level Up. I think it's time we should move on and do our last and final thing, and that is, of course, news updates. welcome to our news update. So this is what we have. Now, I kind of forgot to put this on the previous episodes on the news updates. We want to give congratulations to the NWA owner and president, William Patrick Corgan, or as we know him, Billy Corgan, on his marriage with his newly wife Chloe. They just recently got married this past weekend, so we wish nothing for the best of luck for both of them. Now, as you know, sometimes in promotions, when there's a wrestling school, they kind of, how do I say, they have a sort of like a showcase for the least experienced wrestlers. Well, this one called Level Up Pro Wrestling, or something like that. So this is nothing compared like the one here that we had in San Diego, but they announced that for their showcase, Brian Kendrick will be there, and this will take place soon, I think. Well, but yeah. Now, as you know, I talked about NXT Level Up, and this was a news that got up to me that it was posted by Tokyo Sports. Now, keep in mind, I don't speak Japanese or read Japanese. I just use the translator on that. It was set to reveal that, of course, Ikeman JIro is now released from WWE. So that means watching him on NXT Level Up was the last time we get to see him. Now, I think many of us felt that, Ikeman JIro never got the real opportunities he deserved or should have had from the very beginning. But I'm sure he will be much stronger and better off, hopefully try to reinvent himself or gain more momentum to gain more attention. So we'll see what happens then. We are yet to hear from him, but we'll find out. Now, Black Label Pro with their annual tournament Turbo Graps 24 it will happen this weekend. Well, they announced this is a very interesting one. Apparently a showdown between a tag team. We're talking about Violence is Forever. Kevin Koo takes on his tag partner Dominic Garrini. Now, because of what we've been seeing with of course, with the releases recently, among the releases was Emma, or as we knew her in Impact Wrestling, Tenille Dashwood. Now, she did actually posted a tweet about the whole thing, so this is what she had to say. Thank you for all the lovely messages and comments. I'll see you all, and your support never goes unnoticed. While I wasn't expecting a call yesterday, it was far to say that I wasn't shocked. When I returned to WWE, I was so excited. I was ready to work my ass off and do all things I didn't get to do first time around, but it became apparently quickly that this wasn't my time, and that was okay. Would I love to have wrestled at a stadium show in my home country? You bet. But now my many doorways and opportunities have opened, and that's exciting. I feel very excited today. I met my soon-to-be husband in WWE, and I'm so grateful for that beautiful life that we have been building. I get to spend more time with my family and friends, and I can really focus on important things in my life. And you bet I'm going to be traveling as much as possible. I can't wait to see more of the world and take you on more adventures with us soon in many ways. Stay tuned. So she has noticed, as you know, her return to WWE was not exactly as she expected. Of course, like for her, probably the writing was well, but she did not take things for granted. I mean, of course, she's right. She met her soon-to-be husband there too. He also was released, if you guys know. So that was already been foretold. Of course, she's going to be traveling, but there is still no indication if she'll be back. The last job she did, the last wrestling promotion she was in, was Impact Wrestling before going back to WWE. I'm not sure if that's something she'll be considering, but we will see. I'm sure she'll be focusing on her family and, of course, her upcoming marriage, but we'll see about that. But we will stay tuned on that as well. Now, finally, our last review we have is from Spark Yoshi Puroresu of America. They announced for more names on both shows on Rising Heat West and East. Now, For the West show that will take place on the 11th of October, they announced Mighty Myra will be involved, and so will be Viperous. Now, for the East show on the 14th of October, they have KZT. She will be involved in that too. So everything's been set up. I'm sure we're going to be having more names announced for Spark, and we'll see what happens going on. I haven't seen the first shows they did, so we'll see what happens until then. I think that's pretty much it, so let's just call it a day. Well, I hope everybody enjoys this episode. Coming up, I have some interesting stuff I'm definitely going to put out in the episode. Now, if you guys know about that new US Joshi promotion show taking place in New York City, well, apparently I'm able to see it. So I'll be reviewing that soon enough. We also got the latest Choco Pro show and upcoming Got to Move show, the 4 Aces, which I'm excited to witness. I do know we have AEW Collision. I'll be taking a look at that. So I'll be doing a big review for the next episode. So we'll see how this one rolls up. So stay tuned for that. But as of right now, I will see you guys in the next DWZ time. Same DWZ channel. I must bid all of you adieu. So, goodbye. And have a nice day.